We're in. We're live. Hello, everyone. I'm going to give everyone a few more minutes just to jump in. I'm going to post an announcement as well, just to remind everyone that we are going live. Maybe I'll chuck a little sneaky little GIF in. Let's see. Cool. All right, 250 listeners. Like I said, we'll wait a few more minutes. Let as many people join as they like, and then we'll get into the fun. It seems like we've got quite a few plays on the server as well. Not that that's necessary, but if you do want to jump online and hang out while we're kind of in the event, feel free. Maybe get some screenshots and stuff while we're going. 300 listeners. I'll wait a few more minutes. It still seems like there's a few people joining. It's only me in here at the moment from the team, but rest assured, most of the team is in here listening. Although luckily for you all, you'll get to, for the most part, just hear my beautiful, sweet voice. 330 listeners. I've got my eyes on stage text chat as well, if you have anything you'd like to say. Hopefully my mic sounds fine. Can we get a mic check? Let me know if it sounds fine. Awesome.
Your mic is fine, bud.
There's Robot. All right, cool. Seems listeners are slowing down, so we'll kind of get into the fun. I do have a list up of things that I want to talk about. It's not a very exact list, so we may kind of stray off here and there. I didn't want it to be too structured or too overly professional, but we have some super, super exciting things to talk about. And yeah, so before we get started and before we kind of jump into the fun, I'd like to just briefly talk about the Discord stage events and how useful I think that's going to be for us at Origin Realms moving forward. We've been hanging to kind of have one of these for quite some time, and this is definitely our first one. But it's interesting because we don't want to do them too frequently, where it becomes kind of like too much information or like not overly special. So we're kind of going out of our way to leave these events for kind of special announcements and stuff that we have. But generally speaking, I think they do hold a lot of value, and it's a really good opportunity for us to share kind of bigger picture plans with you all in a pretty structured way. Discord voice calls are kind of notoriously known for not being that great for this kind of stuff. It's nice that we can kind of hand pick people that want to speak and stuff like that. But yeah, so we definitely plan on doing more of this stuff in the future. I don't have kind of any exact dates or anything like that, but whenever we do have something exciting to share or we want to kind of catch up with you all, we do intend on doing this stuff, so you can keep an eye out for it. Now, throughout the stage, I will be talking about a variety of cool things, and I really wanted to give you all the chance to ask questions as well. It is tricky in a situation like this where you have 360 people all listening in. That's a lot of questions coming through. But if you do feel like at any point we're talking about something and you have a question that you'd like me to answer, the team members will be kind of hand picking good questions that we can address. So just throw it in stage text chat, and if it's something that the team thinks we can answer quickly and in an engaging way, then we'll definitely take note of that, and hopefully as we get through certain stages of the event, we can spend a little bit of time answering 3 or 4 questions here and there. But yeah, before we get into the topics, I also want to kind of reiterate that we're giving away 3 Cosmos robe cosmetics throughout the event as well. That is a cosmetic that doesn't exist on the network yet. It's not obtained by any players, and we only ever plan on giving them away in these community stage events. So That'll be 3 per event, and we may only do 10 of these events per year. So, with those figures, there's only 30 that could potentially exist in a year's time. So I would say, for the most part, they will be one of the most sought after cosmetics on the entire network. So that'll definitely be exciting if you can get your hands on that, and you'll be able to withdraw that from the wardrobe in token form as well, and trade that with other players. And it may be worth some rubies down the line, or even straight away. So we will be giving them away throughout the stage to random people. We'll just be picking entirely randomly from people that are in the stage, and yeah, then we'll reach out over DMs and get you that super, super cool cosmetic. So to get started, we'll be giving away one right now, and then one towards the middle of the event, and then one at the end. So first winner for the very, very first ever handed out Cosmos robe cosmetic is, I'll just post the user in the text chat. It's Jom1571. So if that's you, GG. And we'll be reaching out to you through DMs, or you can just message me, and we'll get that to you, and you can do whatever you wish with it. Flex on people if you will. All right, cool. So with that out of the way, let's get into the fun. Lots of cool stuff to talk about. First, I want to just touch base on the arcade that went out yesterday. We've had a lot of really good feedback for the new arcade building. It's definitely something that was in progress for quite some time, but it wasn't like number one priority. We were chipping away at it whenever we had time, and we're super glad that it's open now, and just another useful building at Origin Isles that has some content. If you have had the chance to jump on and check it out already, you'll know that it's very much in its first iteration. We have massive plans for this building. Some plans that are just like so cool I can't even begin to explain. But for now, we only have one game. We plan on growing that collection of games, and not every game will be, kind of Ruby orientated or casino style games. So we would like to have kind of a large variety of cool games, of all different styles, whether it's like multiplayer stuff or retro style games. I envision a world where you can jump on and play Pac-Man on Origin Realms and collect coins and buy super cool items from like an arcade stall, just like you would in real life. Collect cool things like lava lamps, for example. Plenty of cool ideas that we are planning on pushing out with that. But the reality is that's very much stuff that we'll just do when we have time. There are some much bigger picture things that are in the works, and that takes priority. But yeah, that's that. I'm super, super happy about the reception of that update. And yeah, thanks to everyone who's had a chance to check it out. And if you haven't, definitely go take a look, because it's super cool stuff. That's that for the arcade. Now, the next, and I'd say probably the most important section of the stage event is, it's relatively general, but it's really kind of bigger picture stuff. We haven't really had the chance to speak to you all, just in a super general sense about the future of Origin Realms and what we're all about. We've had an overwhelming amount of people check out the project since we began our beta. And we've had some really, really useful feedback, very constructive. But the reality is we're still very much in the like earliest stages of Origin Realms. Our existing community is such a small portion of what we intend the community to become. So really, you guys are like the founding community of Origin Realms, and that's super special to us. And we're really trying to work as closely with you all as possible to create an awesome product. But over the last 3 months of beta, we've really just been kind of piecing the puzzle together and chipping away at it one by one. Now we're at a point where we have a really nice base product, but there are some integral parts of the project that are just missing. And that's not anyone's fault. It's just the path that we chose to, you know, take, and we kind of wanted to stage the content for Origin Realms. But everything on the server right now is very surface level. Like, one thing that we've really become to we've come to realize is that the content isn't nearly as deep as what we want it to go. You can log on Origin Realms and have a lot of fun, but there's not any really long-term objectives. And I think that's probably the area that we need to focus on the most to get out of beta. So today's call is, for the most part, about our path to 1.0.0, which is our full release, and just being open and honest about what that looks like to us, so you can all have something to look forward to. It's definitely it's a big undertaking, because a lot of the full release content, it all has to come at once in order to work properly. It can't just be dropped in bits and pieces, because a lot of it depends on each other to work. So we're definitely comfortable in saying that we're taking a break from smaller updates, and we're really just putting all of our energy in getting across the line, and hopefully towards the end of the summer, getting out of beta and into full release. Take that date with a grain of salt. There's no official timeline, but we are just trying to push it out as quick as possible. And once we're out of beta, that's when the fun really starts. That's when we start to actually attempt to grow this product. And it's something that we all really strongly believe in. We really genuinely believe that Origin Realms is going to be huge. It's going to be something that people really, really enjoy. And we're just on the path to that. So now I want to get a little bit into kind of what 1.0 is intended to contain, and what the most important parts are of that. But before we talk a little bit about what the plan is, I do want to give you a little spoiler. I will be dropping 2 spoilers throughout the stage. I just want to give you something to kind of get your minds moving and think about while I'm talking about the experiences that we're working on. So I'm going to press the big blue send button now. Let's see. So if you keep your eyes on the spoilers channel, you'll see this. Better react to that so you can all give it a little check. So yeah, I think there's something for you to kind of look at while I talk about the next stage of what we're working on, and hopefully it gives you a little bit of an insight into the really cool stuff that we've got planned. So that's a Strata Golem, and that's just one of the new mobs that we're working on that play part of the bigger experience that we're working on next. I've teased in recent weeks about the fact that some core areas of Origin Realms are really changing. They're taking a shift in direction. And that core area that I've been talking about is adventure worlds. Since the dawn of time, since the beginning of Origin Realms, you've all seen references of adventure worlds, and you've all wondered what that really means. And those worlds were always intended to be almost separate versions of Origin Isles, very handcrafted worlds where it was all about like a story and almost like a single player experience. And the reality is, we aren't comfortable pushing out a product unless it is absolutely jaw-dropping. We have incredibly high standards for ourselves as a team, and creating this content takes quite some time. And with the time that takes, we've decided to take a slightly different approach for the adventure worlds, and hopefully do them in a way that is not only way more exciting, but gets more to you guys and girls as a community much faster. So the approach that we're taking and the change that we're making for adventure worlds is that instead of having new separate worlds, we're now intending on integrating as much as possible into what you now know as the resource worlds. So instead of entering a Wild West themed adventure world that you may only go to here and there, and the content doesn't last for very long, all that content that we were intending on putting in that separate world, we now intend on integrating into the resource world instead. And it's important to understand that what the adventure worlds really were. They were all centered around the dungeons. That was the most integral part of the adventure worlds. And we figured, why not, why not do everything in our power to make the resource worlds more exciting? Why have dungeons that are separate to the resource worlds when we can integrate them as much as possible into, arguably the most important part of the network? So that is generally the kind of the plan at the moment, is to, instead of having separate worlds, just focus on pushing that content to the resource worlds. And ultimately what that means is that you'll start to see way more, alive worlds and more content. Realistically, it would have taken us 2 or so months to create an adventure world. And for content that doesn't last, it's not like something that you'll play every single day. You may go to an adventure world, and it may give you like a week or so's worth of content to enjoy, but then after that, you may not ever really have a reason to go back. So instead of doing that and then constantly taking so much time to pump out these worlds, we intend on just adding as many dungeons as possible into the resource worlds, so that you can just explore the world and always have something in front of your eyes, always something to enjoy. And we're super, super excited about that, because not only does it simplify the experience of Origin Realms, it gets rid of all these separate worlds, and it's just going to mean like an incredibly rich world that is always full of things to do. Many people compare Origin Realms to a modded experience, and I think at the moment it's probably the closest thing you'll get to like a modded experience on Java Edition with no mods required. So to anyone here that's played mods, I'm sure you remember that feeling of entering a world and just being surrounded by new things and new items to collect, new mobs to fight. And that's really what we want for the resource worlds. So a kind of a secondary effect of that path is that now we intend on calling the resource worlds adventure worlds, because in their essence, that's what they are. We want those resource worlds not to just be about mindlessly collecting blocks and ripping up the world and mining ores. We want them to be adventures, worlds that you enter, and there's, a plethora of things to do at all times. Like a large list of content to explore, items to collect, mobs to fight, and, biomes to find, dungeons to explore. Lots of cool stuff. So yeah, over the next few weeks, I don't know exactly when, you'll kind of begin to see us remove those references of adventure worlds and change the resource worlds over to adventure worlds. Now, that doesn't mean any new content for those worlds until 1.0, because it's all part of that big update. But you'll at least begin to see us change those references and simplify the balloon menu and stuff like that. But I really want to reiterate that the dungeon experience that we always had planned is not changing at all. They're the same dungeons that we had always wanted to create. They just now aren't attached to an adventure world. They don't need an adventure world created alongside them. Like, we can just make a dungeon, spend, like maybe 3 weeks or so making a dungeon and add it to the resource worlds. And then, we can get you 3 dungeons in the time that you would have had 1 adventure world. And, instead of just constantly adding worlds to the list, now 6 months down the line, you're just going to have this incredibly full adventure world full of stuff that is much more vanilla and traditional to the game. But in terms of the dungeons, I think now it's time to talk a little bit about that and what it really means. The intention now with dungeons is, and I want to reiterate that our dungeons, I'm incredibly confident that they will be some of the most jaw-dropping experiences that Minecraft as a multiplayer community has ever seen. We will not stop until these dungeons are some of the most fun you've had in this game. And we stand by that. they're going to be complete experiences, really, really rich environments with soundtracks like, ambient music, cutscenes, puzzles, everything you can imagine, mini bosses, main bosses. This isn't going to be another Ender Dragon fight. Like, I promise you that these will be the boss fights that you've always wanted to see in Minecraft. And not just one of them. We very much intend that 12 months down the line, we'll have a list of 9 or so dungeons that don't just, you know, offer one-time gameplay. That's another massive part of this experience. Our resource worlds, as they're called currently, they reset every 2 days at the moment. We intend on changing that. We want to make the worlds bigger and reset more frequently. So you'll see new dungeons in terms of where they exist in the world every single day, when these worlds are resetting every day. And you'll have a reason to do them more than once. I think that's the most important thing. Like, you want to be redoing a dungeon every day if that's the gameplay that you enjoy. And I think that's something that Minecraft's really missing at the moment, is that replayability. There's so many cool things about our dungeons that will make them worth doing more than once, and hopefully worth doing infinitely. Not only will they offer exclusive items that you need for other areas of the game, but the intention is very much for them to change every time and not be the exact same thing. They're not going to be a a single path. We plan on having them kind of shuffle around in, like, almost like an automatically procedurally generated maze of sorts. It'll always be a different experience. You'll be in the same dungeon, but it might look different each time and structure itself differently. So they're going to be very replayable. And not only that, we intend on having other things like leaderboards and time trials. Like, not only will you want to complete a dungeon to get the items, but you'll also want to see how quick you can do it. So that's I think, a really exciting part of the gameplay. And we very much intend on them having like a party system so you can play with your friends. And um, you know there'll be a lot of strategy involved. Maybe you won't want to play with your friends because the rewards will be the same regardless of whether you do it on your own or play with 4 people. So you may only have one friend and you think you can, complete the dungeon together and split the rewards. Or you may need all the hands you can get and get, 3 of your closest buddies and take the win, basically. So it's going to be super cool, super exciting, and just really, really, really incredible content. So we're super excited about that. Um, and the dungeons are going to be full of unique mobs and entities as well. And I guess the benefit of the approach that we're taking now, moving away from, the set adventure worlds, is that the content that we build for the dungeons, and a good example of that is the Strata Golem, um, that isn't only designed for the dungeon. Initially, it was, that was a mini boss that we kind of designed for the dungeon. But since these dungeons are now going to exist in the resource worlds, these, this content, the content that we're creating specifically for the dungeons, can also be found in the resource worlds. So as we're creating these dungeons, the worlds will just become so much more alive. You'll be walking through a savannah, for example, and you'll see a strata golem, emerge from the ground. And, that's going to be a super exciting experience. But then as you enter a dungeon, you might see a different variant of the strata golem, something that seems a little bit more dangerous. And obviously the dungeons will have exclusive bosses and mobs as well, things that you won't see anywhere else in the worlds. But these dungeons will now have a heavy influence on the world. They'll be something that you actually hunt for, and something that really adds depth to every single region of the game. But yeah, I don't want to lose track. I could talk for hours and hours about the content that we have planned, but I don't want to. I don't want to spoil too much, and I don't want to also, bore you all. So I won't stay on a specific topic for too long. But I hope that very generally gives you an idea of where we're heading with adventure worlds and resource worlds, and some of the excitement that's going to come with that. Um, Now, considering that's essentially the end of the resource world and adventure world stuff that I've wanted to talk about, it might be a good time to share another spoiler that is relevant to that content. So we do have another image to share, and I'll post that to the spoilers channel right now. And then after that, we'll get to some questions because I want to, there's a lot to be answered. I'm sure you have a lot of questions, things that you'd love to know about, and I want to get to some of that as well. 3, 2, 1, go. All right, there you go. And I'll react to that one as well. The little beans emoji. Everyone loves the beans emoji. So this is a really cool mob. And once again, initially this was designed for the dungeon, but now you'll be able to see this in the overworld. If you can just imagine this style of content, but in every single biome, every single biome in the game having something to explore, something that you haven't seen in vanilla Minecraft. That's really special, and we call these the iguanos. They are definitely not an entity you'll want to come across without being slightly prepared. And they're specific to the arid regions of the game, so your desert, savanna, mesa, and they'll really dominate that region of the game. And you'll find them in groups, plenty of different types of iguanos, like mage iguanos, spear welding iguanos, and even really crazy versions of that entity that you'll see specifically in the dungeon. So you'll see iguanos in our first dungeon that we'll be releasing, but they may not be exactly the same as the ones that you're used to seeing in the overworld. They'll definitely have a certain flair, and they'll be slightly scarier than the ones that you're used to seeing outside of the dungeons. But I've got a lot of pings in the Sage text chat. I probably won't be able to read them all, but I know the team members have been taking notes of some questions, so I'll try to get some of those now. Foxotic asked, if everything is being put into the resource world, doesn't that mean that players will be able to destroy them? That is a fantastic question, and actually something that I was planning on talking about, but I completely forgot. So thank you for that question. We haven't decided exactly how we plan on doing this, but the dungeons themselves, they won't exist in the resource worlds. Only the entrances to those dungeons will exist in the resource worlds. And that's how we're going to create really handcrafted experiences that are jaw-dropping and mind-bending, from cutscenes and, the dungeon actually evolving and, puzzles and all that kind of stuff. So you'll find an entrance to a dungeon, and then within that entrance, there'll be danger and there'll be, mobs to fight. But it's really all about entering the portal. That entrance is where you find, you create your party, you catch up with your friends and you enter that portal together, and then you'll get teleported to a different dungeon's area of the network that is specific to you. Almost like a minigame, like we're creating a minigame server specifically for your party, and you'll be able to enjoy the dungeon in an uninterrupted environment. So the dungeon itself, when you've entered the portal, that is where the handcrafted experience begins. And, you won't be able to break the world or destroy it. And then the entrances themselves, these dungeon portals will emit a certain magic that prevents you from destroying the area around it. So those dungeon entrances will always stay preserved throughout that 24-hour period of the adventure world's resetting. So, people won't be able to destroy them and ruin the experience for other people. So, fantastic question. Really glad we got that one. I'm going to struggle pronouncing this, but Project Netoku asked, what happens to the Adventure Worlds button? In the air balloon, I am assuming you mean. That will go, and the current Resource Worlds buttons that you see will be changed to Adventure Worlds. That whole menu will be getting a cool redesign and a fresh look. Next up, the Visionary One asked, does that mean there are plans to introduce boss fights to the Resource Worlds? Yes, but not specifically in the resource worlds. So you'll find the dungeon entrances in those worlds, and then that's where the boss fights will exist. Every dungeon will have, you know, one or maybe a few mini bosses, and then it'll have a final boss, and they'll be very staged. You'll have to kind of go through the dungeon section by section, and like I've mentioned, there will be puzzles and areas where you have to actually do some critical thinking in order to progress, and it'll be really really exciting stuff. Chef Greasy Paw asks, I'm worried that some people won't be able to do anything in the resource world because other people will loot the structures first. I think that kind of is a similar question to the first one. I hope that answered that. There'll be certain things to prevent people ruining the experience for others. Everyone will have the chance to get into their own dungeon, and it will be, just as beautiful as the rest of the players are experiencing. It'll be specific to you and your party if you choose to party up with other people. Now, Green Pixel asked, what's the plan for the end dimension now? You guys said it was originally going to be an adventure world. That was the plan. The end is a really difficult thing to tackle on a multiplayer server in Minecraft because it's not really content that's designed for that. Now we considered making it just a section of the resource world like the Nether, and then we considered kind of making it an adventure world and having like an end void themed adventure world. That plan has gone, but I don't have any kind of exact answer or promises, but we do hope to have the end and the content that offers at some point available in Origin Realms in the adventure worlds. So we have, now that we're putting a lot of focus on these adventure worlds, and when I reference adventure worlds from now on, you can just assume that I'm talking about the existing resource worlds because they're going to change names. Now that we're putting so much focus into making these a really rich experience, we also have plans to add dimensions in a more traditional sense. So I'd say in the future you will see an iteration of the end come to Origin Realms, but probably not until we've had the time to really reinvent the wheel for that, make it suitable for multiplayer gameplay, and generally just more exciting because the end is a little bit not so good, especially that end dragon fight. That's a big no-no. So you can bet when you see dragons on Origin Realms, you may just turn your computer off because it's going to be really really exciting and spooky stuff. But yeah, I hope that answers that. Next question and last question for this section is also from the Visionary One, and the question is: are there plans for NPCs to spawn in the new resource adventure worlds? That's also a really good question because the adventure worlds were intended to be more quest-driven story worlds full of NPCs, just like Origin Isles. Since that content is moving to the adventure worlds, I'd say you'll see less of that stuff, but the plan is definitely to eventually get NPCs into those worlds as well. NPCs that offer quests kind of in the adventure worlds and in a different way, but they definitely will exist in the future. And there may be, NPCs at the dungeon entrances, for example, that kind of guide you into the dungeon and stuff like that. All right, so those are all the questions that we had written down for the adventure world section of the stage. Sorry if your question didn't get answered, but if you're still hoping for an answer, we'll be discussing it in the social chats and stuff afterwards. And maybe we can even make an FAQ blog or something recapping the event and answering some more stuff in detail. Okay, cool. Now that section of the talk is over, it sounds like a good time to give away another Cosmos robe. So we're just going to do another lucky dip. These are being drawn entirely randomly. The next winner is, once again, hard to pronounce. PAU_1 EAL0359. And I'll post that in the stage text chat. Sorry if that is not the right one. That's the first winner. All right. So GG to them. Once again, reach out or we'll reach out to you and give you that cosmetic. Make sure you're all taking note of these players. Maybe you can strike a deal. If you've got some rubies up your sleeves, maybe you can make a trade. Obviously, don't harass them, but I'm sure they'll probably find their way around the economy, most certainly. Now, the next section of the talk, and I don't want to go for too long. Ideally, I'd say that we'll probably be another half an hour or so, and we'll give another robot at the end. But the next kind of huge part of 1.0 and what their goal is the badges and skills. And you might be kind of beginning to understand at this point that the general theme for the update is really progression. It's adding long-lasting gameplay that you can do or aspire to do within months of playing as opposed to within the first few days. I mean, it's a problem that Minecraft has faced even in vanilla, where it's kind of just really easy to get to the end. You know, you get some cool enchanted gear, go to the end, or fight the silly dragon, and then that's it. On Origin Realms, we really want to have things that keep you occupied for months, and we would like to have you still reaching areas of the game as a really, really active player that is very well progressed. And we very much plan on doing that through our badge system. And our badge system on Origin Realms is essentially similar to a skill system. You'll be given tasks to complete by NPCs around Origin Isles, and they will be specific to core areas of the game, whether or not that's farming, fishing, kind of adventuring or, killing entities. There'll be a bunch of different badges that you'll be able to complete, and, we'll then be able to use those badges to section off areas of the game and determine how good of a player you are. So, entering a new adventure world or resource world, for example, may require you to be a certain level of a certain badge or just a certain player level, and your player level will be a combination of all your badges combined. So let's say, for example, that we have different tiers of adventure worlds, which we very much intend on doing, and I'll talk about that more in a moment. Tier 3 adventure world may require you to be a level 75 player. Now, that really allows you to take whatever approach you want to get to level 75. I think the quickest way is probably going to be to do a little bit of everything. Do some mining, do some farming, do some fishing, and level up all of those skills. But if you are specifically a fishing player, and that's the part of the game that you love the most, you'll be able to reach that level by focusing on what you enjoy the most. And that's a really important part of our badge system. So that's how we plan on really sectioning off the game and giving you long-term goals to achieve. But there's also a bunch of other cool benefits to the badge system and reasons why I'm sure it's going to be super exciting for everyone. We also plan on having scout clubs, which is part of the badge system, and you'll be able to pick a club that is almost like a house. For anyone that's seen Harry Potter, being a part of a core group on the network, and then we can have club competitions where the best clubs at the end of the week get rewards, or massive battles where there's one scout club is versing another, and that'll introduce a lot of competition to the server that it's not necessarily player versus player, but group versus group, and it'll offer you a way to meet new players and connect with people that you probably wouldn't have otherwise connected with. So that's another massive and exciting part about the badge system. But generally, like I said, 1.0.0 and our exit from beta is just all about adding depth to every area of the network so that you have, things to work towards, and also really adding to the progression of the game so it can get much harder than what you're used to experiencing in vanilla. You want to start off with it being a pretty laid back experience and just getting the hang of things. But then as someone who's played for 3 months and is fully geared up, you want to have harder worlds to explore. So that brings me to my next point, which is the adventure worlds and how we plan on tiering them. So I have no idea how we're going to name these tiers, and that'll be determined soon. But we very much intend on having, tier 1, 2, 3, 4 adventure worlds where things just get much harder. So you'll, you know, need to be a certain level to enter a tier 2 resource world. And essentially, what that world will offer is just a harder version of tier 1 with some added stuff. So tier 2 might be the exact same as the normal adventure worlds you're used to exploring, but all the mobs will be harder. They'll deal more damage. The nighttime might last for slightly longer. There'll be certain biomes that are exclusive to that, certain dungeons that'll be exclusive to that. So you'll kind of have to work your way up through those tiers. And ultimately, the game is going to get much harder than you're used to. That they'll have more ores. The mobs will drop more, items. Everything will be amplified in a way that is super, super exciting and actually makes you want to be a good player, you know? And that'll probably come with, expanded health systems. So pushing past all of those natural and existing progression points of Minecraft where you can only have 10 hearts, you know, if the world is going to get significantly harder, you as a player need to be able to get better. And, that's really what we're trying to provide so that you've always got things to work towards. That tier system, it's worth noting, has a large impact on the dungeons as well, because the dungeons that you see in tier 1 will also be in tier 2, but they will be harder. The dungeon might be longer, it might have a few extra rooms, it might have a new mini boss. So basically every area of content has now multiple stages, and as a really experienced player, you may only be venturing through the third tier kind of resource adventure world. And, naturally that's going to be very hard. So you'll have to focus on your enchantments, focus on your relic sets, and focus on being a really, really, well-rounded player. So that's really exciting for us because I feel like that's definitely the part of Origin Realms that is missing the most right now. So yeah, that's in a nutshell 1.0.0. Like internally, we're kind of calling it the progression update. That's really what it's all about. It's not going to have a title, but that's our exit from beta and that's our entrance to our first season. Now, season 1 doesn't intend on having like an overall theme, but that first number in our 3-number system for our versioning, that is what we're considering our seasons. So you can imagine that we'll have a few seasons per year, and they will have large changes to the game, changes to the worlds, evolving characters and dialogues, and generally an overall theme as well. Maybe season 2 might be themed towards a certain event that's happening in the world at the time, and very story driven. And essentially what I'm getting at is the best parts of Origin Realms are still to come. We've just been getting the hang of it, cleaning things up, getting it ready, but Origin Realms is not going anywhere, and this is a project that you'll still see in 2 years' time, 3 years' time. We have massive plans for what this is, and our objective as a team is to create some of the best and richest content that you will see in Minecraft and that you'll experience. Always fun to be had, and something to be done regardless of what genre of the game that you're most interested in. It's meant to be an all-rounded experience where, regardless of what type of player you are or what demographic you're in, you'll have something to log on to Origin Realms and do, whether you're a social player or you're a grinding player or you're someone that likes to train your pets and, level up your pets and or expand on your personal realm or build an empire, build a town and rent out land to other players and dominate the economy. Like Origin Realms is meant to be an open world game that appeals to everyone at all times. And I'm like beyond excited for you all to see what we have planned for the project. And the team, we're working tirelessly to get you some of the coolest stuff that you've ever seen. And the best things are truly yet to come. So yeah, really, really exciting stuff. Now, we've got about 15 minutes until I was hoping to have this all done, and we're definitely on track. Um, I want to spend the next 5 minutes talking a little bit about just the state of the current server and what we plan on doing in terms of growth. Um, there's no doubt that the server is, compared to where we intend it to be, it's quite quiet at the moment. But I want to just reassure everyone that that's very intentional as well. Um, we're focusing on building a really great product before anything else. Origin Realms is an experience that gets amplified with the more players there are online. If you log online, we're one of few servers that the player count that you see, it's the player count that you get. If you see there's 700 people on Origin Realms, you are logging on to a world full of 700 people that you can communicate with, trade with, auction house having items put up every single second, the economy just booming. Like, we intend to have player shops and, like I said, towns and stuff. It's going to be insanity. And Origin Realms wasn't designed for, 100 players online. This is an experience that was designed to be played by thousands of people at once. And that's where we're headed, but only in due time, because more than anything, getting the product right is what is most important to us. And that's why we're so appreciative of our existing community. And we definitely see the value in connecting with you as much as possible, taking all the feedback that we can get and improving this product, because this is a long-term project and we're taking almost a AAA approach. We're viewing the game as an engine now, and we're just creating the version of Minecraft that we want to see, and really just pushing updates that in most cases are bigger than the ones that even Mojang is working on. So we're really proud of that. But in terms of growth, as soon as we're out of beta, that's when the party starts. We'll be working a lot with various creators that are really interested in playing the server. We've had a lot of interest from, large YouTubers and influencers that I'm sure, know and love. And yeah, we have a large kind of we have a large following that aren't quite ready to play, and we're not ready to have the advertisement, but they're very interested for when the time is right. So massive plans in terms of growth. We'll also we'll be investing very heavily back into the server. Each month, putting high amounts of money and reinvesting as much as we possibly can to growing the server. So you can imagine that by the end of the year, the state of Origin Realms will be incredibly different to what it is now, and things will all start to make sense, because it's really one of those projects where it needs all of its core content in order to work the way it should. So we're heading there, and we really, really appreciate the patience in that regard. But yeah, rest assured, Origin Realms might not have everything it needs for you to be interested right now, but I know that a lot of those people that are they're simply waiting to continue playing, and we're also really appreciative of that. Our community is very interested in coming back and checking out the things that we're working on, and I imagine that once we're ready to exit beta, we'll be able to have something for everyone, and it'll be an experience that you don't want to leave. So that's super, super exciting. Now, let's give away that last Cosmos robe. We're going to do another lucky draw, the very last. So fingers crossed, everyone. All right, who is it? We've got, ooh, some of you may know them. JWX. GG. You know how to message me, so reach out and we'll get that to you as well. Really, really excited that one of our really active community members was drawed with this one. So GG to you, man. Really cool stuff. Now that is the end of it. Well, that's the end of the things that I wanted to talk about. I will spend just a little bit answering any additional questions that have come through. And then after that, it'll be farewell until next time. So we have a question from Kinla. Will totems still work in these higher level areas? Great question. As the worlds progress and as the adventure worlds grow in their tiers, there will be different kind of modifiers to the world. So you can expect that maybe in the highest tier adventure worlds, PvP may be enabled, and there'll be different things that kind of make it more dangerous. In general, though, I expect totems will remain functional unless you are specifically in like a PvP fight or something like that. Things may change. Now, we have a question from Jill. Are we going to have more member and home slots soon? That's an interesting question. We haven't necessarily talked about that, but I'm happy to bring that up with the team. If people feel like they're kind of reaching their cap, we can definitely consider increasing those or having ways to maybe spend rubies on, more slots and stuff like that. Jinx the Goblin asked, what is planned for Pride Month? We've had a lot of interest in the things that we have planned for Pride Month. Obviously, as you can see, we're working on a lot of really exciting stuff, but we definitely we want to do something to appreciate this awesome month of the year. As you can see, we've already changed our Discord icon. We do have some small things planned for Pride that you'll see over the next week. Hopefully you like rainbow flags as decorations for your house. So there's a little hint. But yes, we definitely plan on doing something for Pride Month. Now, we've had a few questions from various people asking about pets and towns. Now, those are two pieces of content that will be coming after full release. Release is focusing on progression, getting the leveling systems in, getting at least one or two dungeons in to get that process started. The tiered resource worlds and stuff like that. That's our focus for 1.0. And then after that is when slowly we'll start working at pets and towns and some of those other really core areas of the experience that don't exist yet. Some more questions from various people regarding PvP. How PvP is going to work. We do have a rough idea. It's still very much up in the air, but for the most part, we expect that PvP will be optional. We don't want Origin Realms to be an experience where you have to be scared to venture the world. There may be regions of the world in higher tier resource worlds where you enter a region and you know that PvP is enabled. But other than that, we do plan on having like an acceptance system where you can request someone to PvP you. You can go out in the world and right click them and send them essentially a duel. And then we expect that you'll be able to kind of set your own modifiers as well. You can agree on the terms of the fight, whether or not you want to, maybe put a bet on the fight or whether or not you want to lose your inventory. And, giving you as the player the chance to determine how the fight plays out. Now, a few more questions regarding trading and markets. The economy is a massive part of the server that hasn't been fully explored yet. Of course, we intend on there being player markets and ways to buy and sell items outside of the auction house and the Origin Isles NPCs. I think it really it ties in very strongly with towns, I imagine. So you'll probably see a lot of that stuff come around the same time, where you can start building towns and then making your own shops, selling your own items, and I think that'll add a whole new layer to the economy that I'm super, super excited for. Now, what else have we got? That is it for questions. That is all the questions that we have listed out. I'm sure there were more, but these are the ones that the team has selected. Like I said, we'll take a look back through the chats, see some of those other questions that have come through, and maybe do a post kind of answering some more of them in depth, or maybe a blog over the next few days, so you can keep an eye out for that. But that's really it. We've retained quite a large amount of people listening to this stage as it went. We've officially gone for an hour. I really, really appreciate more than you understand. Everyone showing up. Super exciting stuff that we've been talking about. I'm sure there's things here and there that I've missed, but I really wanted it to be as organic as possible. So I hope you all enjoyed kind of hearing from us, getting a little glimpse into what we're working on, and hopefully we can do more of this stuff soon. Like I said, we won't do them too frequently to the point where they're like, boring and there's not much to share. But every time that there's a big progress update, maybe we can focus on doing a stage and connect with you all a little bit more. Plenty of amazing stuff coming. We do have plenty of updates planned prior to 1.0. It's not like we're dropping everything and purely working on 1.0. That's just where the majority of our focus is right now. But we do have, plans to add new furniture and plenty of other stuff to the world prior to that. So definitely look forward to that. And yeah, that's everything. Have a fantastic day, night, whatever it is for you. Thanks again for coming, and we will see you on the server. Bye, everyone.